A boat camera catches stone steps above the surf. Days later, maps deny they ever existed. An expedition reached a forbidden island, then officially failed. Yet its last film shows geometry where only shoreline belonged. Not ruins deep inland, not a trick of shadow. Stairs descending toward water cut into black rock, and after the team vanished, no survey found them again. So what failed exactly? The landing, the report, or the island itself? This mystery matters because islands can change faster than memory. Coasts crack, slump, flood, uplift, and hide their own evidence. A single tide can rewrite a beach. A single quake can redraw a harbor. Add volcanic rock, heavy surf, and poor visibility, suddenly one impossible detail becomes dangerously plausible. But only if the sequence makes sense. The sequence is where the official story weakens. Start with the easiest explanation. Perhaps the camera captured ordinary rocks from a lucky angle. Humans love patterns, especially under stress. A notch becomes a doorway, a ledge becomes a stair. That happens often on cliffs. The salt can break into strikingly regular forms. Cooling lava forms columns, terraces, and hard edges. From a moving boat, those shapes can look man-made, especially in low sun, especially through spray, especially when everyone on board expects discovery. But this explanation has a problem. The steps appear across several frames, not one. The boat shifts, the angle changes, the pattern remains. Even more interesting, the spacing looks unusually even. Natural rock can mimic symmetry. It rarely repeats so neatly at surf level. And surf level is the strangest place. Waves should erode sharp edges first. If these were old carved steps, why survive there? If they were natural, why look so deliberate? The film gives one answer, then steals it back. There is another simple possibility. The steps were real, but temporary. That sounds absurd until coasts enter the story. Volcanic islands often build in layers. Hard lava caps softer ash. When waves cut into the ash, ledges can appear. Then the next storms remove them. What looked ancient was actually fresh damage. What looked built was simply collapse paused mid-process. This is the first big reversal. The island may have hidden nothing. It may have been caught while falling apart. Forbidden places often seem mysterious long before they are. Restrictions alone create legends. A quarantine zone becomes a haunted shore. A military reserve becomes a secret map hole. But many islands are closed for practical reasons: disease, invasive species, nesting seasons, unexploded ordnance, unstable cliffs. Once access is limited, evidence shrinks. When evidence shrinks, imagination grows faster than geology. That matters here, because the official report may not conceal a miracle, it may conceal uncertainty. Imagine the expedition landing under rough conditions: radiostatic, heavy swell, a narrow beach vanishing under each surge. Teams move quickly, badly, and with too much equipment. One member spots the steps from offshore, another marks a different cove. By the time boots hit ground, the tide has changed. The landmark is gone behind foam. This happens more than people expect. On jagged coasts, a small rise in water hides entire ledges. A place visible from sea level can disappear from shore level. Perspective becomes the island's first defense. Now add timing. Many coasts look completely different across 6 hours. At low tide, rock shelves stretch outward. At high tide, they vanish beneath white water. A stair shape seen during retreating waves may be unreachable later. If the crew searched after the tide turned, failure makes sense, not dramatic failure. Ordinary, frustrating, expensive failure. Yet the camera would still preserve the earlier view, so the film and the report could both be honest. They were simply describing different islands hours apart. That sounds satisfying, but another detail pushes harder. The steps were reportedly absent from later maps. Not just missed during one search, absent from the official coastline afterward. This matters because maps freeze unstable places into certainty. A chart suggests permanence. Real shorelines often refuse it. Small volcanic islands can lose meters in one season. Storms chew headlands. Landslides remove coves. Ash banks slump overnight. If the island changed after the expedition, the missing steps stop being strange. The real mystery becomes speed. Coastal collapse can happen brutally fast. Sea caves enlarge from below, unseen from above. Cliffs remain intact until their support fails. Then entire faces drop at once. One day a shelf exists. The next, only boulders and foam remain. If the steps sat on an oversteepened margin, they could vanish between surveys. No conspiracy needed, just gravity, fracture lines, and heavy water. And islands built from volcanic material are especially vulnerable. Beautiful piles, but temporary ones. The ocean notices every weakness. There is an even sharper version. Suppose the stair shape formed on a slump block. That means a chunk of coast detached slightly but stayed lodged. Its cracks could create regular faces. Its tilt could make each ledge look carved. From a boat, it resembles architecture. Then, one larger wave cycle arrives. The block rotates, breaks, or sinks. When later teams return, the visual anchor is gone, not hidden, destroyed. This would also explain why no one found a full structure inland. They were chasing the memory of a landslide, not a monument. Yet the phrase official failure still feels loaded. Why call an expedition failed so firmly? Usually because the mission had a defined target: land, sample, verify, return. If verification collapses, institutions become cautious. They prefer failed over unexplained. Failed sounds final. Unexplained invites more boats. And more boats mean risk, cost, and liability near a dangerous shore, so the wording itself may tell us something. Not about secrecy, about bureaucracy defending itself. Reports also compress messy fieldwork into clean sentences. A week of confusion becomes one paragraph. Conflicting observations disappear. Tentative guesses harden into one official version. Maybe some team members believed the steps were natural. Maybe others thought they saw tool marks. Maybe no consensus survived the weather. In final paperwork, ambiguity gets cut first. That creates a familiar historical illusion. Later readers see certainty where none existed. The report sounds stronger than the evidence ever was. The camera, meanwhile, keeps the original discomfort alive. Film has its own traps. Old lenses flatten depth. Spray smears edges. Shutter timing can freeze foam into bright lines. Contrast turns shallow grooves into dark joints. And if the boat rows on a swell, each frame exaggerates geometry. A jagged notch becomes a staircase because the horizon moves. This does not mean the footage is fake. It means vision from water is treacherous. Mariners know this intimately. Headlands jump closer. Openings appear, then seal. Entire coves seem to slide sideways in afternoon light. At sea, truth changes with every meter. Now consider the island itself as a machine. Waves attack from below. Salt enters cracks. Sun heats the rock. Rain cools it. Roots pry seams wider. Each tide removes grains, then stones, then slabs. Nothing dramatic is required, just repetition. On exposed ocean islands, repetition is savage. A cliff can look ancient and still be temporary. That is why coastlines produce ghost features: arches, stacks, bridges, terraces. Some survive centuries, some survive one storm season. The camera may have met a feature in its final week. Geology gives us one more clue. If the island was volcanic, black rock matters. Basalt often fractures in angular patterns. Tough and welded ash erode into ledges. Columnar joints can create natural steps so convincing people build myths around them afterward. There are famous coasts where tourists swear humans carved them. They did not. Heat and cooling did. But even natural steps can become culturally dangerous. Once seen, they imply pathways. Pathways imply settlements. Settlements imply hidden history. A simple rock pattern can launch decades of speculation. That chain may have trapped this island too. And then there is the surf zone itself. Most people imagine coasts from still photographs. Real surf erases detail constantly. Foam covers edges. Refraction bends submerged shapes upward. A ledge under one wave train can mimic a dry stare. Under another, it vanishes completely. If the expedition approached during cross-swell conditions, the sea could have edited the coastline in real time. The camera would record a brief, readable pattern. Human observers arriving seconds later might see only chaos. But what if the most suspicious detail is not the steps? What if it is their position? They were seen from the boat, near the margin, not farther inland where ruins usually persist. That placement argues against a lost city. It argues for contact between land and sea. And contact zones are where false certainty dies. Tides, surge, refraction, collapse, and perspective meet there. The island's edge is never one thing. It is an argument happening every minute. This changes how we read the disappearance. People imagine vanishing as total removal. Often it means loss of repeatability. You cannot find the same view twice. The same cove floods differently. The same cliff looks shorter at noon. The same approach line misses by 30 meters. With no stable pier, no road, and no fixed landmarks, the expedition may have failed to reproduce its own sighting. Science hates that outcome. Mystery feeds on it. Both can emerge from the same shoreline. That is why forbidden islands breed legends so efficiently. Maps make the problem worse. A chart line looks precise, but coastlines are negotiated. Survey date matters. Tide state matters. Resolution matters. A dangerous notch may be omitted. A transient shelf may never qualify. Small, inaccessible shores are often simplified for safety. If later maps lacked the steps, that does not prove deletion. It may prove cartographic triage. Map makers sometimes preserve hazards. Sometimes they erase unstable clutter. For navigators, too much detail can mislead as badly as too little. The island may have been simplified exactly where the mystery lived. There is still the human factor. Expeditions carry pressure. People want discoveries to be worth the risk. When they glimpse an unusual form, interpretation accelerates. The brain chooses structure over randomness. One observer says stairs, another begins seeing a landing place. Soon the whole boat frames the shore around that claim. This is not fraud. It is pattern commitment. Once committed, every frame seems to confirm it. Only later, in calmer rooms, doubt returns. By then, the shoreline has already changed. But human bias cannot explain everything. The repeated visual rhythm still deserves respect. Several ledges in sequence are not imaginary by default, so the strongest explanation blends both sides. A genuine natural feature existed. It looked remarkably artificial. It was observed under unstable conditions. Then it was hidden or destroyed before verification. That combination feels unsatisfying because it denies a grand reveal. The world produces strange evidence without preserving the answer. Nature can create perfect questions, then erase the key, which leaves the official report in a different light. Perhaps calling the mission failed was technically correct. They did not confirm settlement. They did not recover artifacts. They did not relocate the feature. By institutional standards, that is failure. But to everyone watching the film, it feels incomplete, because the camera captured a moment the paperwork could not hold. A stairway, or a mimic of one, existed long enough to matter,